Welcome to the Conscious Marketer Podcast, the place for conscious entrepreneurs, teachers, healers, and authors who want to expand their reach and impact in the world. Join us and meet leading experts where we talk all things conscious marketing, launches, storytelling, and other strategies to help you serve more people. Find us at consciousmarketer.com. Welcome to the show. Hi, everybody, and thanks for tuning in. I'm Richard Tobinger, the CEO of Conscious Marketer and the host of the Conscious Marketer Podcast, and really appreciate you joining us here on the show today. I'm also joined by my co-host, Kylie Slavak. Welcome, Kylie.
Welcome to you, and welcome to Eiji. Thank you so much to both of you for being here.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Today's guest is Eiji Morishita. And Eiji is going to be talking about how to create a movement that matters. And this is a topic that both Kylie and I are super passionate about because we work with so many people creating positive impact in the world. And it's more than just launching products. Most of the people that we work with, they want to get out there and create a movement. Welcome, Eiji. How are you today? How are you doing?
Doing wonderful, Richard. And thank you for hosting me. And Kylie, good to see you again and be on this show. So I'm really excited what we're covering.
Yeah, and let me give a quick background of Eiji so that you know his magic and his mastery. He's an expert in movement-based brand strategy and messaging, leadership development, and training. Eiji Morishita is a movement makers mentor and founder of Movement Makers, whose mission is to empower 1,000 leaders over the next 10 years to start a movement that impact millions of lives. Movement Makers is a business leadership accelerator for purpose and mission-driven entrepreneurs to build profitable and sustainable social impact businesses. And today, Eiji is going to share with us some of his strategies and best practices on how to start, grow, and lead a movement, and how to create a ripple effect, why leading a movement could be or is your number one best marketing strategy. We're going to talk a little bit about getting ambassadors and advocates for your movement. And we're going to discover 3 phases of growth and what to focus on each phase. So that's a lot to cover. I feel like we need to study with you for a couple of weeks to learn all that, but let's see where we can get today.
Yes, definitely.
Let me start. So do you want to just maybe share a little bit of your background and how you came into, becoming a movement maker? That's really interesting.
Yeah, so I was born out of the womb and instantly I was branded and stamped movement maker. It was a complete straight line from the womb. But jokingly, it was definitely one of those, that meme or so of success. Most people think success is a straight line. And it's all these squiggly lines and all these different things. And so have a wide, extensive background. But the core part is I was born in an immigrant family and first born in America. My family were in the Japanese restaurant business. And growing up, I was totally outcasted. Like it was in the 80s. And I still remember the day where I went to 4th grade. We're going to this, I grew up in LA, this place called Cabrillo Beach. And there's this Grunion run and stuff like that. But at lunch, I just remember feeling so lonely because I brought a bento box to school. This is 1984, bento box. And I was outcasted. And internally, all I wanted was that brown paper bag and a peanut butter and jelly sandwich just to fit in. But growing up, it just felt really different, just being bullied and things and all these different pieces. It got so bad that I was legally going to change my name to John. And when I went to college, then luckily I had a Obi-Wan Kenobi professor-looking English college writing professor that, hang on, why don't you do some research on your name, what it means, and come back to us. We'll discuss it. And so I found out my first name is spelled E-I-J-I. The E-I is a symbol for England in English, but also it's a symbol for hero. It's like, cool, hero. I love Superman, Batman, Spider-Man. And then J-I is to power, govern, or rule, or be an authority, but also means heal. And I drew hero and healing. And then that's when I made a huge shift and took a healthy pride into my name and my culture, my heritage. And I made the huge distinction that I'm not different, which implied loneliness and separation and isolation, that I'm unique. And with that uniqueness, I could feel connected to everyone around me and be celebrated for my uniqueness. And then that's when I started stepping up in leadership, heading the Berkeley Student Co-ops, to going into high-tech recruiting, and then serving with my family restaurant business. And then we've been training a lot of service-based professionals, coaches, consultants, practitioners for the last 10 years. And we're also now working with social impact startups and organizations as well on the movement side. So it's definitely a weird way of like, I don't know anyone else who's grew up in the restaurant industry, went into high-tech recruiting, actually worked in a engine shop in purchasing for United Airlines, played poker professionally for a few years. There's a saying about poker, and now it's online, but about poker is it's a tough way to make an easy living. And it's one of the few businesses, but there are real business out there where you could work all day and have less money at the end of the day than you do. So actually playing poker professionally and being an entrepreneur, there's a lot of similarities, and you get paid for the right decisions. You can make the wrong decisions and win short term, but you could also make the right decisions and lose, but you got to make the right decisions over the long term to do so. So it's been definitely a squirrely path, but everything has happened perfectly for a reason. And I picked up like the tools, like in video games, you go off the straight path and you pick up a tool, a shield or a superpower or a weapon, and then you bring it back and it all comes full circle. So
and then the fireball breathing dragon comes.
Yes. And you keep going and playing until you figure it out.
Sometimes I call that a soul thread, where you go through and do all these different things in life, and then it leads you to the thing you were meant to do, and you utilize all the things you picked up through there,
Absolutely. I love it. Absolutely. It just shows up that way. And like Steve Jobs says, you can only connect the dots looking backwards,
Right. Well, I think a lot of our audience, they're, I would say, more conscious entrepreneurs, business people, and a lot of them, I think, want to learn how to start, grow, and lead a movement. Could you share maybe some of the strategies or some of the ways you would approach it? So if I said, look, I want to create a movement around topic X, how would you kind of like help that person kind of figure out kind of some of the first steps that they might need to take to create that movement?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the first step is getting alignment. And I know alignment's used a lot. It's like, after authenticity, alignment's another huge word that's being used as a buzzword. But it's something where it's kind of like the birth of a movement. It's got to come naturally. It can't be artificial or fake, just like, with your expertise. But you can't just force something to go viral. And it's like, it's got to come from a purity. So I feel like what I call it's like that gut feeling where in your, in your bones, in your cell, it's a spontaneous recognition almost. And I do take a spiritual approach to it, that it feels like it's a full body. Yes. Logically, it makes no sense. Yeah. And you go forward in that direction. And and people can hear with the resonance of your voice, who you're being when you're speaking from a pure place, from a place of truth, and that you're here to do something greater. And the first key thing is to just share a vision. Without a vision, people perish. But the secret is make a vision large enough that people know you can't do it by yourself. Because if I hear like, Kylie, I've known for many years, she's super talented and she says, Eiji, I'm so excited about this project and here's what I want to do. And it's like, and it's within her wheelhouse. It's like, oh, great. I know you're going to do it. Great. I'll see you later. Right. But if it's so big, like this is bigger than me and I can't do it for myself. Great. How can I support? Who do you need connections with? And so I think the first key step, and this is the big mistake that people make, is their vision is realistic. Their vision is something they could do on their own. It has to be greater than them so that it allows the ambassadors, it allows people to come in and support. From a spiritual perspective, for those who have a spiritual foundation, it allows God or universe, whatever the word is for you, to come in to bring those miracles to you. So the first step is alignment and follow that umph. And here's what's interesting is I'll share one of the movements I've been part of. This was back over 10 years ago. A person had that oomph or that spontaneous recognition to give out hugs in San Diego. And remember that there's that YouTube video of the man with the free hug sign? We played that for the class, and then we all got inspired saying, yes, let's do it. And so we had a bunch of entrepreneurs come together. One person designed a website. Another person, my friend of mine, Tiamo, designed custom song. And we got the news. We started giving out hugs in San Diego with branded T-shirts. And within 3 days, we started raising money for this Hug It Forward project, which became a movement. Yep. But originally, it wasn't clear. So it wasn't clear what it was other than give out hugs, following the feeling. And then a core team developed. Out of 40, 8 people said, let's keep this going. They went to Europe. They gave out hugs. But when they went to a small country in Central America called Guatemala, they found like the grand design, the divine plan. And they saw the streets littered in trash. And they saw like God's plan of the bigger plan. And someone had a crazy idea. I would never have thought of this in a million years, saying, why don't we take up all this trash and stuff them in the plastic bottles and build schools out of them? And it's like, and that's what I feel genius is taking two seemingly unrelated concepts of unrecyclable trash, plastic bottles, and schools, and making that peanut butter and chocolate combination. And then the first bottle school was born. And since then, over 130 bottle schools have been completed and fully funded through volunteerism, just because one person had the courage to follow the spontaneous recognition to say, let's give out hugs. And I feel like a lot of these movements, and I have spoken, a lot of these movements sometimes are accidental, but you got to follow the feeling and allow the steps to be shown to you, and that the next step will always appear. But the key is that following the feeling and then having a vision, and then the vision will continue to expand and continue to get clear.
I love that. Eiji, I have a quick question for you because you said that they need to follow that hunch, and our people have hunches all the time and then they get scared. So what do you say to that fear?
Oh, I have a motto. I did steal from Nike. I just add one word. It's like, so, Nike has just do it. I have a just do it anyway. Just do it anyway. And it's like, that's my motto, is like, you feel the fear, just do it anyway. All fear is a sign to prepare. And what I know to be true is you're more ready than you think you are. You're ready enough to start. And as you take action, you discover and become aware of where you're less ready than you think you are. And then you fill in the gaps. But the fear is always going to be there. I mean, to imagine like, oh, everything's going to be aligned. All my fears, all my doubts, all my worries will disappear. And it'll be like laid out for me. That will never happen. We just have to continue to move forward anyway, follow the hunch and keep going. And I think that's the thing about the hunches is you don't change your direction until you are absolutely, positively 100% sure it's not the right direction. So a quick example is I just recently invested in property in Costa Rica. And it's a sizable amount. There is no loans for Costa Rica. You got to pay up in cash. And it's a sizable amount. We're building a retreat center for leaders out there to come together and solve the world's greatest challenges. And so I was looking at ways of just keep moving forward. And there was a snag. And there's always a snag in the process where doubt and fear come in. I don't think this is going to happen. But even when my belief went, I still took action. And I was actually praying, God, send me a sign that this isn't the way. If you do that, I'll stop. I'm not attached to this, but I feel called and moved. And most people, when they get the original sign or that hunch, they're saying, okay, send me more signs to make sure I'm in the right direction. Some people get it, but I took the opposite approach of like saying, because you only need one sign. And you keep going, and then only when you know it's 100% the wrong way, then you can make a U-turn or you could course correct. What I see so many people make this deadly mistake is they make the decision, they feel solid about it, and then as soon as even there's an ounce of doubt, they second guess themselves. And they stop or turn around and fall short, almost like that 3 feet from gold story. They stop digging about 3 feet from the mother lode. And you don't need more signs to show you're the right way. Do the opposite. Just keep going until you absolutely know it's the wrong decision. And even if you knew it's the wrong decision, it's going to give you the feedback to course correct to get closer to your goal. So logically and also from experientially, there's really nothing to fear. So, but wrapping up is, use my model, just do it anyway,
Right.
And Richard Branson says, screw it, let's do it. So for me, it's like, just do it anyway. And I think that will solve a lot of the issues around that.
I think one of the remarkable things that you said there is that you learn as you go along the way. And so unless you're taking action, you're like in the market, unless you're in the poker game or in, whatever you're doing, you don't know what the next step is. And that it's kind of like the next thing will appear. Have you found that to be the case?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's like, I think that's the key skill for any entrepreneur is our ability to improvise, overcome, and adapt. And it's not about, and I'll use a poker analogy, it's not about the quality of hands you're dealt. It's how well you adjust to, and make the right decisions and as they come away. But also in poker, it's about emotional and energy management. Because you could be the best poker player in the world, but if you get angry, and they call it on tilt, where you get really emotional, that's when most poker players lose all their money. Entrepreneurs can make the decisions like 99 out of 100 times correct, but that 100 time is the one that actually is catastrophic to their business. Then it's really about maintaining and managing the emotions and being on even keel, and no matter what happens, and always making the right decisions. But I think that's the skill, because the thing we run in our organization is the 3 F's. We want to be fast, we want to be fluid, and we want to be flexible. Because that's, it's not the big that eats the small, it's the fast that eats the slow in terms of speed of service, speed of delivery. We want to avoid being the opposite of slow, stagnant, and rigid. And so I think that's the key, is fast, fluid, and flexible, and just know that it's not what happens. And one of my business mentors, she runs a multi 8-figure business. She just told me straight, Eiji, all your strategies and campaigns and launches, just know it doesn't work out the way you planned it. Just know that. Just accept it. Just accept like the launching or the copy or whatever. It's just not going to work out. It's in the adjustments that gets the results. And I think that's what I see, is how well you adjust in the game that determines the quality and the end results. And everything is fixable. Is another belief I have. Everything's fixable and everything can be course corrected. And this is why I see a lot of entrepreneurs say, I followed the template, I followed the cookie cutter system and it didn't work. No, you got to make it work and make it your own in the process. Then you could have that ownership.
Yeah, we have a woman in our mastermind, and she's really good on video. And one of the calls, we were like, another member had done a video and she did like one version or whatever. And this other person was like, I did that video that you thought was so good. I did 30 takes of that before I got the one that I published, And sometimes we do sell by chat, and sometimes it takes 25 chats to close one person. So it's like you have to realize the tenacity it takes to keep it going. And I'm assuming with a movement, it's the same thing. So you have to keep going.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that. I love that tenacity. And it's really that commitment of being a stand and being focused for the results and enjoying the process, but focus on results. It's like, how long does it take? And the answer is as long as it takes. Right. It's not even a question whether or not you'll get there or not. Your results are inevitable. The question is timing, but that's outside of our control. We can influence it, but if we're committed to going all the way. So, I'm not an athlete growing up, but I completed 2 marathons, and it's about finishing. And at first you don't care about the time. It's just finishing, and how long does it take, or how long should I finish it in? It doesn't matter. Just finishing. You keep going, and these mental mind tricks. I must have said baby steps are just 1 more minute, like hundreds and hundreds of times. But as long as you don't stop and you don't quit and you stay on course, you're guaranteed to finish. And I think that gives me peace of mind, like having the eye on the prize. It gives me peace of mind knowing like, if I don't quit and just stay on course, I'm going to cross the finish line eventually. And the only thing I don't know is when. But when I cross it the first time, then the next time I have a baseline to base it against. But I think that's another error that people make, is they expect to determine the timing on something they've never done before.
Right.
And there's no data.
So good.
Can you share a little bit about, why leading a movement's your number one marketing strategy? I know we work with we talk a lot about leading with values, and I think that really, when my sense is when you lead with a movement, it's not so much marketing, you're just sharing this new vision of the world. Is that true? Or like, can you explain more about how you approach it?
Yeah, well, I love how you mentioned values because when we do brand strategy, values is a core piece,
Mhm.
and a movement really takes off when your movement, when you're and just so you know, it's like movement sounds like such a big word, but another word for movement is having an active community. An active community that takes action is a movement. It has a life of its own. So it's the values is key. Is like the movement really grows when the community adopts the values as their own. So when Martin Luther King said, "I have a dream," it wasn't his dream. It was my dream. It was this person's dream. It was our dream. And so when the community and the individual on the individual level takes ownership or receives and owns as their own, then they're going to support everything that's in alignment. So values is key. And as far as the vision, so we go vision first. No, well, it depends. It's kind of chicken or the egg. You could go vision, then values, or values, then vision. But either way, both are so important. And the vision is what we call the utopian future. And I'm really a big fan of Buckminster Fuller's work, where he says you don't change existing reality by fighting against it. Instead, create a new model that makes the old model obsolete. So the vision, in my opinion, in my experience, is creating that utopian future vision and a new model that makes the old model obsolete. And it's like, imagine if before, now that we know what we know now, it's like if you were the inventor of the smartphone, it's like I see a world where there's no need for landlines and payphones and this, and that you can have the power of 2 or 3 computers in your pocket, and this will allow you to travel, this will allow you to work anywhere. It's like if someone said that early on, it's like it's huge, and that's what's happening is people are shifting. Now, to answer your question on why it's in my opinion, and based on our research as well, why it's the best marketing strategy, I feel it's the number one strategy for long-term sustainable success. And there are 3 trends that I see in the marketplace that supports a movement. One is the rise of activism. And I've been speaking about this trend since 2014, that you're going to see activism rise. And we've seen it with George Floyd, Black Lives Matter, student against gun violence, and people are feeling active. It all started, it started 10 years ago. This year is the 10-year anniversary of Occupy Wall Street. And it's an activist movement. At first, the movement started with anger. They're just angry. They just need to express. But it's way better than feeling sad or depressed where they're not expressing. So anger creates action, and then systems and organizations come in. So the rise of activism is key. It's like people want to be part of something greater. The second is conscious consumerism. People are now voting with their dollars even more. They're choosing not, there are people who don't order from Starbucks. They don't, they're not looking to say, hey, let me buy from Monsanto or buy a bunch of Roundup and let me support these companies that have, a negative balance sheet with the planet. So now people are waking up. There's 2 major markets for conscious consumerism. You have the millennials and the younger generation, and then conscious women, which make 70-80% of the household decisions. So it's shifting. Oh, here's an interesting side note. I was having at a 4th of July party, and this person's very famous. You may recognize him. He's big on microbiomes and health and stuff like that. His name is Zach Bush, and we were having conversation. And what's so cool is big corporations like Nestle, they see the writing on the wall. They see the writing. If they don't go shift to regenerative agriculture, they know they're going to get blockbuster. They know they're going to go extinct like the dinosaurs. So big companies like Nestle and governments are partnering up with thought leaders like Zach Bush to create regenerative agriculture. And ultimately for these larger companies, it is a financial economic decision. And they know if it's strategically better, they're going to do it. They're not like every single person works at Nestle or the higher ups. They're not evil people wanting to do harm to people. They're human beings just like us. And in their minds, I truly believe they believe that they're doing the best they can and that they're doing good. But now it's shifting there. So conscious consumerism is shifting the big multinational companies. And then third one is the reputation economy. I see that where we're going to pay less attention. I mean, there's still some Instagram photos and stuff like that right now, but I think people are looking for substance and people are looking for peer reviews, like buying based on reviews on Amazon, buying based on reviews from Yelp or TripAdvisor or Airbnb. We trust each other more than we trust advertising. And also, this has always been the case in the affluent community, saying, hey, I'm looking for a new financial advisor. Who do you recommend? They're not going to say, let me look at all these commercials and see who I'm going to choose. They're going to ask their friends. But now it's more decentralized and we're looking for all these people. So that being said, these three trends of the rise of activism, conscious consumerism, and reputation economy, it behooves us to be conscious businesses and creating that raving fan culture that'll keep you alive. One of my favorite raving fan cultures is Harley Davidson. They were going to go out of business, but it was the bikers, the Sturgis bike rallies, and they kept that business in business. And Harley is now considered one of the most iconic and well-loved American brands worldwide because they build a constituency, they build a community, a movement that wouldn't let them die. And as a movement leader as well, if it's all based on the leader, it's going to be tough. You need other people to pick it up. And so that's why a movement is not based on the leader, it's based on the community. So I think for long-term sustainability, and for those of you who really care about leaving a legacy beyond your life, your physical life here, this is the key, that the movement can continue to grow, continue to spread, continue to expand long after you're here. And I think that's what I'm looking at, is like, how do we create it so the gift doesn't die with you?
So good. I could listen to you talk all day.
Yeah, you're so inspiring. You're talking our language, and I'm excited. I think this might be a good segue to talk about maybe the three phases of growth and what to focus on each phase, because I see some movements they're creating something entirely new in the world, and there might be other businesses that are, regenerating and kind of reinventing themselves. But I'm kind of interested in what are the three phases of growth for a movement. That seems like a fascinating topic.
Yeah, so absolutely. And then this is also, it's for movements and for conscious businesses. It's like there are three phases. I think people, especially in marketing, they're getting the stages incorrect. So the first phase is ideation and monetization. There needs to be a financial engine that keeps things going. And so it's like a car. If you buy a car without an engine, whether it's electric or diesel or whatever, the car won't move. So the first phase is ideation, but then as soon as you get the ideation, you want to figure out how to monetize it, whether you get commissioned like an artist and get funded, or you get venture capital, or you create a business model that you have customers and clients that you can monetize it. So that's the first phase, is really making sure that you're sustainable. And this is how Tesla started. They started with the Roadster for a small group, which then provided the money for research and development for phase two, which is leverage, creating leverage. So this is where, now that you have money coming in or that you're funded, then you can buy your time back, leverage yourself, trade. You could buy your time back, and also you can hire a team, get your time back, and focus on leveraged items and to get it out. So Tesla moved from the Roadster to developing the Model S and started leveraging themselves. And this is where team, leverage, groups, a lot of these things come into place. And then the third level we call amplified. This is like scaling and growing. Now that you have the systems and processing in place and you have automation, then you can scale it. And this is where the game changer is. And this is why we have monetization first, is that the working class and the middle class trades time. Working class does it for dollars. Middle class does it for status, in terms of keeping up with the Joneses, the car you drive, the home you own, the schools your kids go to, all, the TV, all the material stuff. But the wealthy, they don't trade time, at least mindset wise. They trade money, and they trade money to buy their time back, which is part of the leverage. But to amplify is to get an ROI. And there's two types of ROI, is the return on investment, money to make more money. but also a good friend of ours, Mark Angela Coppola, he shared the ROI, which I love, is ripple of impact. Because you could trade money, because a dollar goes a long way in other countries, to build a well or do this and, feed a family for a month. But it's the ripple of impact they could start trading money for. And then the third thing that the wealthy trades money for is experience and enjoyment. And so I think that's one thing that I'm glad I shared this part, because the movement maker is the next level where we're ditching the old paradigm of martyrdom, of self-sacrifice, because it's not sustainable. The old paradigm of a movement maker or movement leader is you got to sacrifice your life. You got to sacrifice everything and can't enjoy life along the way. I truly believe you can have both. You can have heaven on earth. Like, you could experience the yes and that's really the mindset. Is like Einstein says, you can't solve a problem at the same level of thinking that created it. So most people are in either or mindset. Either I do this or I do that. Either I serve my mission and make the great impact, or I make money. Or either I serve my mission and make my impact, or I serve my family. I feel you could do both. You could grow it without sacrificing your soul and sacrificing your family in the process. So that's one core message. And trust me, I've had to let go of my own behaviors of being a martyr and that martyr tendencies. But I think that's the key, is like for sustainability, that we also have to replenish our tank along the way. So going back to the 3 phases, after ideation, you go to monetization, and then you leverage yourself, and then once you have it, then you can amplify it. And it's very similar to principles of business to grow it out. But the key thing in each level is leadership. First, we got to lead ourselves, then we have to lead others, then we can lead leaders.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that. I think a lot of creators, I'm sure you hear this weekly or a lot. It's like, I have this idea, but I can't share it with you without a non-disclosure. Like, a lot of people try to hold it tight or think the people are going to take their idea. And that's so counterproductive. And most often 100 other people have had the same idea too. They just haven't acted on it. But I think there's this critical ingredient to creating a movement, which is what you call ambassadors and advocates for the movement. Can you talk a little bit about how you become that leader and how you bring in the advocates and the ambassadors, and you create a structure where other people are sharing it, because that's how it grows, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I truly believe, like, that whole NDA thing, and it's like scarce. It's like ideas are dime a dozen. Very rarely, there's nothing new under the sun. And it's really in the implementation execution, because most visionary leaders have tons of ideas, but very few people can execute and implement on those ideas. And having ambassadors, having kind of like, the key thing in a movement is at least to get your first follower. Every single movement, even if you call Google or Facebook, they had, like Google had Sergey Brin and Larry Page, but you see these big companies, they usually come in partnerships. Even Jeff Bezos, he had McKinsey, and they did it in partnerships. That the thing of like, self-made, millionaire, billionaire, it's all a lie. It really takes a village. And so you need to find your first follower first, who believes in you, who's with you thick and thin. And that first follower really gives you that social proof. It's kind of like having a wingman or wingwoman when you're dating, to show like, oh yeah, someone can vouch for you. But then you develop a core team. And so I was, when I was living in Orange County, I used to go to a church called Saddleback Church, and the pastor's named Pastor Rick Warren, wrote Purpose Driven Life. Went through his leadership training, and it just shows like how big it's like it's almost a 3 billion person movement, and how Jesus came in and he recruited Peter first, then the disciples. And so, but it's these numbers of, like having a small group of 12. And if you look at advisors, cabinets, they follow this. And then these ambassadors start spreading it out and empowering. I think the key thing is giving them empowerment for them to have their own groups. And what I love is, I truly believe any idea is spreadable, as long as you don't care who gets the credit. And I think most people, where movements and visions die, is people want to get credit for it. And I believe that if you truly believe in the vision, you're not doing it for the credit. You're doing it to make it real. Like for what I'm doing, it's like, I don't care. As long as it happens, it doesn't matter who gets the credit, because you don't take that part doesn't, I want the end result. I want a better world for everyone. I want my kids, there's 8 and 5. I want them to have a better world, 50, 100 years from now, and grandkids and so on and so forth. It doesn't really matter for me. And the key missing component of that is most people are doing it in silos. They're working as lone wolves, and they're saying, I got the best idea, but I'm not going to share. But all we need is a wheel. We're missing a wheel. And if all they did was knock on their neighbor's door who has the same idea, same vision, and all they say is, you know what, man, we're so good at making wheels, but we don't have everything else. If only we could create the whole car, this or that. I wish we could partner up, but they're not thinking that way. And I truly believe that all the wheels have already been invented that people are missing. And if there's a wheel that isn't invented through collaboration from like Think and Grow Rich, when people come with a shared vision and a collaboration, that a mastermind, a third mind comes into place, and that they can co-create a vision. And I truly believe that as a human race, we're here meant to collaborate and co-create, and that no one person has all the answers. And I think that's the key, is even in the conscious or social impact state, there's still some scarcity and competition mentality where we can't share this because we have to get the credit, or we can't do this because it's kind of like, if we could get this, there's joint ventures, collaborations, and get the work out. And there's more than enough, because if you have a game-changing solution that can help millions, if not billions of people, the money is always going to be there. So that's what I see as a major problem, is lone wolfing, and a lot of entrepreneurs and organizations still feel it. And for those who are, I know this is conscious marketers and entrepreneurs, but anyone in the nonprofit space, it's like the nonprofit space are competing for fundraising dollars, and they're not sharing. So it's like, it's still an old paradigm. And that's the new paradigm, is collaboration, co-creation.
Yeah, it's definitely changing rapidly. So what is the key ingredient to getting more ambassadors and advocates? Is it the shared vision, or is it giving them credit? Or I'm just kind of curious what the piece is there.
You know what it is? It's an enrollment conversation of sharing your vision, but evoking their vision. What do they want? So it's kind of like, I see visions like a Venn diagram. Like, I see, here's the vision for the movement. What is your personal vision? And then see where the intersection is, and focus on the intersection where their vision is inside your vision, and focus on that. And then through that dialogue as well, I think there's also ideas of their vision that can make your vision bigger, that can encapsulate their vision. So part of it is, some people want in for different reasons. There's 3 main drivers for human beings. One is power. Some people want the power and the prestige of having the power, autonomy, and authority. So that's one thing. Second is, some people are driven by achievement, getting results. So they want to be part of something that's a winning team that gets results. And third driver is affiliation, where people want to surround themselves with other movers and shakers. So, and we may have all 3, but there's going to be one driver. So it's really figure out what drives them. So if they want power, you want to put them in positions of power. If they want achievement, then you want to, help them get clear, defined goals, and that they know they're contributing to the success. If they want affiliation, making sure that they have the connections and people, and the affiliations of that. So it's really like enrolling them into their vision, and how by them achieving your vision and their vision, the intersection, whether it's helping them achieve your vision helps your vision, or vice versa. It's really a conversation and enrollment. Now, if you're doing it in a mass way, you're still like, you're touching on those 3 drivers as well. But as far as the initial, here's what I've noticed is, like, the top 1% ambassadors and advocates, they're going to outproduce like 100 other people. It's like, this is what we've noticed. It's like, there's different tiers of people. There's like super elite, and the one elite person can outproduce almost everyone else. And so it's really focusing on on the top, because the top 1% end up getting like 50% of the results. So making sure that the super ambassadors are the super ones. And then those are the ones that you invest more time, you pour into them. And those who are producing less, there's leverage ways or group ways or leadership levels that can train them more en masse. So you're not spending, your time is limited. So you're not spending time with people who may only bring in one person to movement versus someone who could bring 1,000 or 10,000 or 100,000 or so. So those are a few pieces. The only other thing I would add is, now we're in the social media culture, is celebrities and influencers, and celebrities are influencers, but celebrities and influencers, they're some of the fastest ways. And the role of celebrities and influencers is not to be boots on the ground doing the movement. They're really there to shine the light on the grassroots movement. So you got the bottom up approach of grassroots, boots on the ground, but then you got the celebrities, the leaders, the influencers, and their main role is to shine the light on the grassroots. And then you have your community builders in the middle, which are your local organizations, associations, nonprofits, schools, churches, temples, synagogues, mosques, all of this. And the community is the glue. But so you have a three-pronged approach, and they all connect with each other.
I love it. You're laying this out so clearly and such value-based content. I love it. And let me ask one more question. I know probably a lot of listeners are out there, and you may have the vision, it could be a dream or something you've thought through or something you see. And there's that voice in the head that says, who am I to do this? And this fear comes up, and what will other people think of me and all this? What would you say to that person who may be listening to this podcast, and they might already have the movement in their mind, but they're maybe a little shy, and they have this thing going on inside their head?
Yeah, and that's how, what's funny is I had those exact same thoughts when I first started getting to training and coaching and speaking. I was a high-tech recruiter, went to my first Tony Robbins event, and there's this young woman, 27 years old or so. She was depressed and suicidal, and her eyes were literally dead. And within 45 minutes, he literally brought the light back into her eyes, and I was like blown away. Wow, that's magic. I'm telling my peers, did you see that? Wow, that's amazing. I want to do that. That was the spontaneous recognition. And then my mind goes, who am I to do this? I'm a tech recruiter. I don't know how to speak. I don't know how to coach. I don't know any of this. This is in 2001. But people started coming into my life to guide me and to give me the skills. So as long as you have the vision, then first thing is just keep taking the next step, just one step at a time, and then surround yourself in a community. This podcast is amazing. This podcast is amazing group. Go connect with like-minded people instead of people who are like the crabs in the sand bucket pulling you down. They say, yes, right on. I believe in you. Keep going. And surround yourself and look for mentors or guides who've been there or done that and still doing it. And surround yourself in communities. I think it's all about environment. There's a saying like, an acorn planted in fertile soil so it can burst up into a mighty oak. But if you leave it on your granite countertop in your kitchen, it'll never do a thing. You just need to be planted in the right soil and being nurtured with the community. And that's what movement is a community. And I believe everyone should start a movement, but before you start a movement, you got to join a movement, learn how it is. I believe all the best teachers are the best students at first, and the best teachers are continually great students. So I think it's by joining a movement. And here's the beauty of movement makers is movement makers doesn't have one movement. We love all the movements that it's like we could be passionate and focused on one, but doesn't mean we don't support or believe in others. So joining movements, supporting them, whether it's vocally, whether it's with your dollars, whether it's through your influence, but you don't have to say, I'm exclusive to this movement. No, I love all the movements. And so join a movement, and then that'll help you start a movement, and go surround yourself in an environment, that fertile soil for you to be this mighty oak with deep, deep roots. And now's the best time to start. The best time to start, like planting a tree was 20 years ago. Best time is right now. And it's always the answer is right now. It's like when to start, and just trust. And here's from a spiritual perspective, Pastor Rick Warren said this is, you don't have to figure out the house, make the decision first, And then God will open up doors that didn't even exist. And that was so profound for me. It's like, oh, that's why I can't figure out the hows before I make the decision, because I didn't make the decision. If once I make a decision, I puncture a hole into the universe, and then spirit, universe, whatever your word is, will open up the doors that didn't even exist. So trust that it happens and surround yourself with people. I think this podcast is great, and surround yourself with communities. We're all here, and I'm honored to be on this show because you're part of helping our movement grow, and we're all on the same team. Like, I truly believe, like, I love Marvel movies, so I truly believe we're building a real life Avengers initiative. We just may not have costumes, maybe at parties, but not right here, in day to day. But I think it is like movies and battle for the world and just making a world a better place. It's really happening right now, and we get to be major players in it. It's so cool. It's like I've always wanted to be a superhero, and we get the opportunity to do this in real life.
I'd be more than happy to bring the costumes, Eiji.
Awesome. Yes. And Kylie, I love your boots. So it's like, yeah, it's like Kylie, yeah, it's like, yeah, let's bring out the costume.
Well, maybe the costume is the human body itself,
Yes.
It's a container for the spirit or soul. Well, this has been really amazing, Eiji. If people want to work with you, if they want to find out more about you, can you just share a little about how you work with people and where they can find you?
Yeah, sure. The best place to connect with us is our website, movementmakers.org, O-R-G, not .com, movementmakers.org. And we also devised a quiz to kind of assess where you're at. So we have a quiz at movementmakerquiz.com. So it's singular, movementmakerquiz.com. And then that's a way where you could get our daily dose of inspiration, get up to date of our events and happenings and what I see in trends. My background's in economics, so I love seeing trends. It's almost like being Merlin and that crystal ball thing. But yeah, that's one of my gifts is, I see things and they tend to happen. But yeah, that's how you can stay connected is movementmakers.org and then movementmakerquiz.com.
That's awesome. And you run online summits and different events that people can also attend for you.
Yeah, totally. We run online events. We interview some great people who are doing amazing things in real life, boots on the ground, things like that. One of our core team members, he's in the activist scene, who is in charge of one of the leaders for Occupy Wall Street and also some other people-based movements. So yeah, it's been a blast.
Well, thanks so much for coming on the show, Eiji. It's been really a pleasure, and we'll have to have you back because I feel like we just got started here. And we could just wrap all kinds of chats about the different movements that are happening in the world now and what it means and your vision of the future and everything like that. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. It's been my honor. And yeah, I definitely would love to be on again because I didn't even get to share like the different sizes of movements. So I'd love to be on again and we can go deeper and geek out on this.
Yeah, definitely. And for all the listeners out there, go check out his stuff at movementmakers.org. And thanks so much for being on the show. Remember, everybody, you can access any of today's recordings, show highlights, and links mentioned in the show at consciousmarketer.com. And you can just click podcast and you can find this podcast listed there. Thanks for tuning in. And also head over to iTunes, and we don't charge for the podcast. So all we ask is you go to iTunes and leave a quick review, 5-star rating if you feel called. And by doing so, you help create a movement around conscious marketing and conscious marketer so that we can change the world through the marketing and conscious business. So thank you. See you on the next episode. Thanks for joining us today. Thanks, Kylie, too, for being here, too.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.